there has not been one thing so far. I I fully I fully support law enforcement. I think, you know, that we should all support law enforcement. We should do everything we can to help them out. We need to support them as best we can. I also think that in this particular case, that we are looking at a severely corrupt department here.
Welcome. This is a Disaster Debaters special presentation of Darkness Debaters with Mandy and Brandy. We are bringing unsolved true crime straight into your ears to dance in your imagination. Lock your doors, check the windows, pull your blanket up tight, and bring your detective skills. These cases represent the dark side of human nature and have eluded justice far too long. But maybe tonight, we can cast light where darkness dwells. These topics are intended for mature audiences only, and viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Here we go. So yeah, the night of July the 7th, 2013 is when the whole events of this case began. It was the evening hours, and Colt and Molly were picked up by Con Nip at a house in Wilson, Oklahoma. Wilson, Oklahoma is a county over from Love County, where they actually disappeared. That becomes a factor in the future because you have two counties trying to work with each other. Maybe they're not working as well with each other as some would like. And it just adds a whole nother layer to this case. Colt and Molly were seen getting into the Honda that Con was driving that night, which, by the way, was owned by his girlfriend at the time, Sabrina Graham. Con had a habit, I guess a pastime for fun, to initiate high-speed car chases and get the police chasing him at high rates of speed. And this night was no different. He instigated a police chase with Wilson Police Department, and he took off going 120 miles per hour. He cut his headlights off. It was at night. It was a dangerous pursuit, and they entered into Love County. It is there that Con's cousin, the sheriff, Joe Russell, had deputies with Love County call off the pursuit. From there, the crash. From there, it is believed that the Honda crashed nearby. You got a little bit of a time period between when the chase started at 10:30 and when Molly first tries to contact 911. The 911 call that first came in was at 12:47 p.m. So we're looking at 2 hours of a time difference there. No idea what was going on in that 2-hour time frame. Molly, whether she accidentally or on purpose, calls 911. It is disconnected after 5 seconds, and then kind of like rapid fire, one after the other, calls to 911 from Molly's phone. All disconnected, all don't go through. 911 calls her back, but she doesn't answer. It just rings. There's no answer. 911 does not send any officers to investigate these calls, which in hindsight seems kind of strange. They both were
I
trying
don't
to.
know. Did they know where they were at? Were they able to get a location on them?
I don't think that they.
Because I know the calls kept dropping after like 5 seconds. So
Yeah, they did not. I think that when like agencies came in and were getting phone records and looking at all that data is when they were kind of able to make the determination where their cell phones were pinging and where they were that night. Now, they did reach out to friends that night. They were texting, they were calling. Over 33 calls were made. Over 33 calls and texts were made. Some of them went unanswered by the party they were trying to reach. Some of them they answered, they couldn't come out and help them. They were asking for rides. They were saying they were in the vicinity of Pike Road and Long Hollow Road. They were expressing that they were thirsty. They needed a ride. Colt explained that he had climbed up a tree and fell out and had a compound fracture of his ankle. He said he was coughing up blood. He said he was in a ravine. He needed help. Some friends did drive out there and they were calling for Colt. They were calling for Colt. They were honking their horns. They were listening in that vicinity, and Colt could never hear their horns or them calling. So neither Colt nor Molly were found that night. Molly makes a last phone call to a friend saying that she was on Pike Road, needed a ride at 9:33 on July 8th that morning. And suddenly her phone dies at 9:39. And then mysteriously enough, Colt's phone dies shortly thereafter. So their phones died at the same time. Neither one is seen or heard from again. Now, on the other hand, their friend, Con, was alive and well at home the very next morning. Friends that were out there early that morning looking for Colt, that were driving around honking their horns, they run into Con and they ask him, where are they at? And he says, they're just goofing off. They're playing. They are lying. There ain't nothing wrong with them. They're just pulling y'all's leg, that kind of thing. Colt is still on the phone with his friends and he hears this and he's like, let me talk to him. We don't know what was said between Colt and Con, but there was a conversation. And then Con comes back and says, well, actually, where we've been stealing cars and dumping cars out there? That's where they're at. As we said, there's some kind of shady doings in this case on all sides.
They found a whole bunch of wrecked cars that had been reported stolen on the property when they did get to search it. And that was, I think, several years before they actually got to go out there and search it. I don't remember the timeline on that one specifically, but
yes, that was all part of Con, his little pastime of stealing cars, getting into police chases, and wrecking them out there. That was what he did for fun. And
yeah.
So his friends ask, can we go out there and look for them in that spot? And Con denies them access to the property. And he will not let them go search the property. So they were never found. We can now say that since that morning when he did kind of talk to them a little bit, Khan has denied all responsibility for their disappearance. He swears that he does not know where Colt and Molly are.
He tried to say for a while that he wasn't even with them that night.
Yes.
He told several people, "I wasn't even with them. I don't know where they were. They weren't in my car." And then they found evidence, and it's like, dude, you're a liar, and you want us to believe? Okay, theories are coming later. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yes. So yes, he even tried to use his girlfriend and her car as an alibi, saying that he did take it out that night, but it was back the next morning, and then that next morning it was stolen. And Sabrina reported that car stolen and filed an insurance claim on that. Khan and Sabrina did end up getting charges. Her for filing a false police report for the stolen car and a false insurance report in January of 2014. And Khan was convicted on charges of all the evidence they found out there on his property with the cars and the endangering people with the car chase that night. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that they found the Honda that they were driving in, and it was pretty roughed up, damaged. He was driving through barbed wire. He was driving through fields.
It had $18,000 worth of damage.
Yes,
especially to the undercarriage. I actually saw that this morning. I was trying to find if they knew exactly how much damage, and they said it was $18,000 worth of damage, especially to the undercarriage.
Yes.
I'm like, when are you people going to quit loaning him your cars?
Right. So yes, he was really roughing it with that Honda that night.
I'm telling you.
They did do forensic testing on the vehicle, and no signs of blood or foul play were found in the vehicle. I'm not quite sure which agency was responsible for that testing, if it was Wilson PD or if it was Love County. I'm not clear on that. But no signs of foul play or blood were in the car. They end up finding out that the cell phones had pinged within 100 yards of where the car was located eventually. And they did a thorough search around that area, and there were no signs of Colt nor Molly in that area. They remain missing to this day.
Yeah. The next morning, so like you said, Molly's phone went dead at 9:39 a.m. Colt's went dead at 9:50 a.m. Went dead. I think they got turned off, personally. They had been missing for 9 hours at that time, but they had been in contact with people during those 9 hours. So I think one of the last people that Molly talked to, or one of the last, she called a friend at like 6:30 in the morning and said, "Hey, can you come get me?" But the friend wasn't able to come out there. And Molly's mom called the sheriff's department that morning. You know, her family's freaking out. Where is she at? Where nobody knows where she's at. She didn't come home. All the things. And they called the sheriff's department to report Molly missing. And the dispatcher takes the phone outside to Joe Russell and says, "Hey, we got a woman on the phone that says her daughter was with Con last night during that high-speed chase, and now nobody can find her." And Joe Russell's response, the sheriff who has done everything he can do, his response to hearing that a minor, a child, a 17-year-old little girl is missing in his county, his response is, "That's not my problem," allegedly.
Allegedly.
The dispatcher took it upon herself to make flyers, missing persons flyers, and hang them up. And then shortly thereafter, she was fired from the sheriff's department. There was a show. Which show was it? Never Seen Again, I think was the name of the show. I'll link that down here where you guys can watch that. They did a really good. They actually had an officer that worked under Joe Russell on that show, and he is still haunted. He felt like his hands were tied as a deputy there, and Joe telling them basically that we're not going to do anything about it. And he had some really awful things to say about working for a man like Joe Russell. I mean, there has not been one thing so far. I fully support law enforcement. I think, that we should all support law enforcement. We should do everything we can to help them out. We need to support them as best we can. I also think that in this particular case, that we are looking at a severely corrupt department here, and a young man in Con that has gotten away with so much for so many years that he feels like he's untouchable, and he'll just do whatever he wants to. And I think Joe himself thought that since he was the sheriff that he could just do whatever he wanted to, and he did for many, many years. And the thing, like I said at the beginning, that Colt and Molly getting into some trouble and doing some things maybe they shouldn't have warranted a death sentence. That's absolutely true. They were very young, and we are all stupid at that age. We all are. We make some really bad choices and do some really bad, stupid stuff. But Joe Russell was a 60-something-year-old man who obviously is on a power trip and thinks that he owns that county. It's kind of disgusting.
It is.
Honestly, it's super disgusting.
It is. Yeah, it's all about the good old boys club in some of these small towns. It's all about who you know, who you pay off, who you can get to cover for you. And it's not that way in all small town police departments, but it seems like maybe that was the case here in Love County at that time. And it's really unfortunate that these two young people are still unaccounted for after all these years. I don't know if you wanted to get into...
I will say 4 months after the disappearance. Oh, go ahead. I was going to talk about when Con got in trouble 4 months later and went to prison.
Yes, 4 months later, yes.
It doesn't really have anything to do with Colt and Molly, but do you have that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I touched on it just a little bit while ago. In January of 2014, they picked Con up and Sabrina both. And Con was in relation to the high-speed chase, unrelated to the disappearance of Colt and Molly. They picked him up on the evidence that there was stolen vehicles out on that Nip Property farm. And he was sentenced to, I do believe, a year in prison. And he ended up, no, it was 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
Let me get my notes out.
Yeah, he had one more high speed chase with
Yes, he
an
was still
Oklahoma
high speed
State police
chasing.
officer where he
Yes.
provoked him. Yeah, he provoked him into chasing him, and the officer's vehicle went airborne. The officer was injured, and that's when Con got his first dose of reality that Uncle Joe or Cousin Joe, whoever, can't get him out of every single sticky situation.
Yes, and it is sad that when they picked him up on those charges in January, Joe was the one who actually arrested him. He kind of did a little bit under the radar. He had him out at the house.
Of course.
And he took him in from the house, but Joe Russell ended up being the one taking him in on those charges.
We wouldn't have expected anything else.
So, yes, after serving 4 years of his 10-year sentence, he was released in 2018. Neither Sabrina nor Con have cooperated with authorities in telling anything that they may or may not know about Colt and Molly's disappearance. To this day, Colt maintains his innocence, even though he has in the past been named a suspect in their disappearance. So, yeah, that's one theory that a lot of people think that may have happened to Colt and Molly that night. They think that, Con was the last one to see them that night. They wrecked out on the Nip property. They were stuck out there. They weren't familiar with the land because we're talking about several acres of land out there. They were kind of stuck out there.
3,000 acres out there around.
Yeah, and they didn't know how to get out of that situation. Con is seen the next morning. We know they're still alive. They're still communicating because his friends were on the phone with them that morning when they spoke with Con. Did Con go back out there where he knew they were that morning and move them to a different location? Did something nefarious happen right out there where he found them? Are they buried out there? Did they put them in the water out there? These are all different theories that people have where Con is involved. And there's also the people that look at it like, well, maybe he didn't kill them. Maybe something else happened to them. But the fact that he wrecked out with them out there and just left them out there and didn't bother to try to get them help or get them out of there, out of the wilderness, in a way, he still is responsible for their deaths.
Right.
So
even if he didn't kill them himself, he's responsible for them being dead.
Exactly. Yes. So that is number one theory, is Con. He had something to do with it. Sheriff Joe Russell's helped covering it up. The Nip family has denied a lot of searchers out there to the property to search. There have been some searches out there, but the Nip family has been kind of tight sealed on their property.
They have not been very cooperative with investigators in trying to find these two people, which when we get into the sheriff's other extracurricular activities, it'll make sense, because honestly there was a lot of illegal stuff going on this property and they didn't want anybody out there. Does that mean that they did something to Colt and Molly? No, it doesn't. it very well could be that they just didn't want anybody to know about all the other illegal stuff going on out there. However, if Joe had taken his position seriously and actually been a lawman, um, like I said earlier, this would have been open and shut in 10 minutes. It probably never would have happened because had he not been covering up for so many years, Khan wouldn't have been acting like this. And I mean, I'm putting a lot of blame right on Joe Russell here, and that's, in my opinion, Joe Russell is one of the he has the most responsibility here because he was the sheriff. It's his property, and he just dropped the ball at every turn. I mean, just and refused to cooperate with other investigators. He didn't recuse himself and call in other people saying, hey, this is my family that they're looking at, so I don't think I need to be involved. He arrested Khan and took Khan in when he got in trouble for the other stuff. And, I mean, there might be some people that believe Joe Russell is just a great guy and he just got a raw deal, or he didn't really do anything all that bad. I'm glad Joe Russell's not the sheriff there anymore, and I hope that they've gotten rid of the corruption that he allowed to come into that department. Yeah. I understand that the sheriff that's there now ran on the promise of looking into this case and reopening it and finding out what happened to Colt and Molly, and he has not done so. So it makes me wonder how much of Joe Russell's corruption is still going on in that department, if there is any, or is this good old boy network just that deep that sheriff can't do anything?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. But there's
I mean, it's all just speculation at this point.
There's one thing that all sides kind of agree on, and that is somebody knows exactly what happened to Colt and Molly. They know what happened, and they just have to talk, whether they're afraid of the law enforcement or afraid of the repercussions. I don't know. Somebody knows.
Yeah.
So that gets into the theory of the corrupt sheriff, Joe Russell. There ended up being outside agencies that came in to investigate this case. With Molly being half Native American, they were able to bring in the Bureau of Indian Affairs into the case to look into her disappearance, and the FBI. Molly's family hired and I've seen this man work on other cases. He seems like a real, like he if there's answers to be found, he'll find it. Mr. Philip Klein with the Klein Investigations here in Texas. Molly's family hired him. They went up there, they did searches, they gathered up witnesses and people and looked at phone records. And one thing that became pretty clear right off the get-go was that records and documentation were lacking in this case when it came to Love County. Sheriff Russell ended up being named and charged with 2 felony counts. One was he was running a meth house with his son, Willie. And they were harboring a fugitive, which was Willie's girlfriend at the time. And they were using that against her to get her to stay there with them, that if she left, they would arrest her. And they also charged him with oppression of office, derelict of duty. I forget the exact wording. He basically wasn't performing his sheriff duties. It was
and that stemmed from him allowing. I think you're fixing to talk about it. I'm going to shut up and let you say it. I think you're fixing to say it.
It was learned that while Con was in jail awaiting sentencing on his charges that stem from the vehicles found on property and the car chase that night, he allowed Con and his family into the evidence room there in Love County. He allowed them in there alone and unsupervised with evidence pertaining to Colt and Molly's case. Why? I'm blown away. Is that a normal?
Yeah.
Is that a normal place?
On what planet would we think? Right. Like, I don't know how many times I've heard of sheriffs letting, like, geez. I mean, and this is what kills me about all the people who are coming to Joe Russell's defense saying, oh, he did everything he could. He investigated this to the best of his ability. And well, then he didn't have very much ability. That's all I got to say. I mean, he didn't protect evidence. He wouldn't take a missing persons report. He cited something about some crappy jurisdiction or something. And I'm like, this is the same Joe Russell that called off a police chase on his family member who he's been covering for years, who's been totaling cars for years because he's bored on a Saturday night. And you're going to tell me all of a sudden you're worried about jurisdiction when there's a missing child in your county? I was born at night, but not last night, baby. I mean.
Yeah. Yes. So Joe Russell ends up getting a plea deal. He ends up agreeing to resign as the sheriff of Love County. They drop his felony charges, and he just gets misdemeanor charge on the omission to perform his duties as sheriff. He is sentenced to 1 year unsupervised probation, and he's told to pay the court costs, which ends up being roughly around $300, which I thought was insane because, I've been hit with some court costs in the past, and they cost a whole lot more than
$300. I mean, my God, especially something as serious as what he was charged with. There were some really serious charges and allegations brought up against him. And I don't think any of the allegations, and a lot of that stuff could have been rumors. There were people saying that he was having meth parties and,
yes,
all kinds of stuff out there. Is all that true? Who knows? Do I believe it's within the realm of possibility, considering what else we do know for sure about Joe Russell? Absolutely. He may not have been using meth himself, but it's not like he would have turned anybody in for doing it out there. And I can absolutely see him just using it against somebody, to get what he wants later. Just be, oh yeah, you can come use meth out at my house all you want to. Yeah, no problem. Just remember, if I need something, it's kind of like in The Godfather that I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. So,
yeah.
This unfolds like a really bad gangster movie.
It does.
Doesn't it? I mean, it's crazy, and I know I'm laughing, and I mean it's the frustration because it's the complete and total insult to intelligence.
Yeah.
It's the complete and total, like, do you guys really think that y'all can say all these great things about Joe Russell that the evidence does not support, and people are going to be like, oh, oh, okay, well, he was a good guy then. No, no, man. Like, I know there's some theories that, you know, that Khan's or not Khan, Colt's brother Jesse is the, is the one that killed him,
Hmm.
and that's a huge, and they're saying Khan didn't have anything to do with it. I don't believe for a second that Khan don't know about it, and that's the thing. If Khan's not the one that killed them, he knows who did. Khan knows exactly what happened, and he may not have been the one that killed them, but he is not innocent. And in my opinion, he is not innocent. He knows exactly what happened to him. He knows who did it. He knows who's involved. He knows everything about it that you could possibly need to know. And that's my opinion.